I paid $11,000 toward my brother's new baby registry. Then got a text. "It's more of a family-only event, don't make it awkward." My mom said, "Don't be dramatic, just send a gift." So I did. I quietly removed myself from the shared trust and froze the car lease I co-signed. By sunrise, 55 missed calls and a ringing doorbell. They looked shocked when I opened the door and announced, "I spent $11,000 on gifts not for show, not to impress anyone, and definitely not to compete with anyone. I did it because for once, I thought maybe I could do something that actually made everyone smile, something that didn't feel like a chore or an obligation." I was the one who always helped out behind the scenes, covering bills, handling the logistics of our parents' declining health, stepping in when something needed to be done. So when my younger brother, Noah, announced they were having a baby, I saw it as a chance to be generous in a way that was joyful, not just practical. I bought a handcrafted walnut crib from a small builder in Vermont who had a 6-month waiting list. I flew out to Pennsylvania just to pick up a hand-sewn baby quilt from an old woman who'd been making them for 40 years. I got a luxury stroller they'd never dream of affording, along with a full year of organic baby formula delivered monthly. I even paid in advance for a newborn photo package with a top photographer in Manhattan, plus engraved silverware with the baby's initials and a custom bookshelf full of children's classics in hardback. The whole thing cost just over $11,000. I didn't mention the price to anyone. I didn't post about it, didn't tell them what was coming. I just wanted to show them that I was happy for them. 2 days before the baby shower, I got the text from Lisa, his wife. "This is more of a family celebration, don't make a big deal out of it." I stared at the screen for at least 10 minutes, wondering if I was reading it wrong. I sent a screenshot to my mom. She replied a few minutes later, "Don't dramatize it, just send the gift." That hit harder than the text. Not one person asked what I'd gotten. Not one person said thank you. It was like I'd embarrassed them by caring too much. I called my cousin Matt later that night, not even sure why, just needing to talk to someone who wasn't blind to how this family worked. Matt laughed at first, thinking I was joking. But then he got quiet. He said, "You know they only expect things from you. You've always been the fallback. Noah's the golden child, they don't say it out loud, but come on, we all know it. He doesn't lift a finger for your parents, but he's the hero. You pay their mortgage and fix the furnace and you're just the background." I didn't sleep that night. By 4 a.m., I had decided. I logged into the trust fund account and withdrew my share. I was the one who set it up anyway. My name was on every document. I also went into the leasing portal and froze the lease on the car Noah was driving, the one I'd co-signed because his credit was in the toilet after yet another entrepreneurial failure. The call started by 6 a.m. My phone buzzed like it was possessed. 55 missed calls. My mom called 23 times. My brother 16. The rest were a mix of extended family, all trying to get ahead of the drama. Then came the knock at the door. It was barely 8. I opened it, still in sweatpants, holding a coffee. My mom, dad, Noah, and Lisa were standing on my porch like I had summoned them with a spell. They didn't say anything for a moment. They looked genuinely confused, offended even. I didn't invite them in. I just said it plainly. "This isn't working anymore. I won't be convenient for you from now on." No yelling. No drama. Just that. Lisa blinked like she just walked into traffic. Noah opened his mouth, but nothing came out. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. And my mom? She went straight to anger, the kind that builds behind closed doors and finally erupts when control slips out of her hands. But I didn't flinch. They thought they could show up, rattle off guilt trips, and I'd fold like always. Not this time. The living room was silent for almost a full minute. Then my mom snapped. She pushed past me into the house, not even pretending to wait for an invitation. The rest followed. My dad started pacing, mumbling about misunderstandings and family values. Lisa stood with her arms folded like she was the one who'd been wrong. Noah went straight for the guilt card. "You froze the car? Are you serious? I need that to get to work." I reminded him that he wasn't working. He'd quit his job last month to consult remotely for a startup that hadn't paid him a cent yet. He had time to play house and throw baby showers, but not to help our parents with groceries or check on Dad after his surgery. That was my role. Always had been. "You're being petty," Lisa chimed in, like she was the voice of reason. Just because we asked you not to go overboard? That's when I realized something. They truly believed I was overreacting. As if none of this had been building for years. As if I hadn't bailed out Noah 3 different times when he maxed out credit cards under my name. As if I didn't pay for Mom's dental implants last year without telling anyone, just so she wouldn't have to feel embarrassed. They thought I was the backup system. Silent, reliable, and never allowed to break down. I looked at Noah. I want the lease paid off or returned. You have 2 weeks. He scoffed, like I was bluffing. That's not how family handles things. Yeah, I said. I'm starting to realize that. They left in a blur of accusations and slammed doors. I didn't chase them, didn't explain. I locked the door and sat in the quiet for an hour. Then I called Matt. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause before he said, "It's about time. I've watched them drain you for years." I didn't realize how much I needed someone to say that out loud. Matt offered to come over, and when he arrived, he brought beers and a folder. Inside were old texts, receipts, and screenshots. Turns out, this wasn't the first time Noah had leaned too heavily on family. He had borrowed money from Matt 2 years ago and never paid it back. There were messages to their uncle promising to help him move, then never showing up. All the times he flaked out, someone else covered for him. Usually me. Matt leaned back and said, "You've been too kind for too long. They don't see it as kindness. They see it as weakness." I sat with that. He was right. I was the one who filled in the gaps every time Noah messed up. And they loved him for it. Not because he was better, but because he never made them feel guilty. I did. Just by showing up and doing more, I reminded them of what they weren't doing. That night, I took my name off every shared utility, every joint account, every automatic payment connected to the family. I canceled the credit card I'd been letting my parents use for groceries, the one they never asked to use but always assumed was fair game. I even logged out of the shared calendar we kept for Dad's doctor visits. Let them figure it out for once. And then I waited. Because I knew the real storm hadn't started yet. The first few days were quiet. That kind of quiet that's too deliberate, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see if I'd cool down and come crawling back into my usual role. I didn't. Then came the tests. My mom left a voicemail that sounded casual. "Hi honey, your father and I were looking at the Wi-Fi bill and we're not sure if we're still under your plan. Give us a call when you get a chance." I didn't call. My dad texted me a photo of a grocery store receipt with no words, just a red circle around the total. That was their way of saying, "Remember what you're supposed to do." I didn't reply. Noah waited exactly 5 days before calling me. His voice was slow and calm at first, but I could hear the frustration bubbling underneath. "You actually froze the lease? I thought you were bluffing. Do you have any idea how much of a mess this is for me?" I said it as plainly as I could. "You have 2 weeks. Pay off the balance, or return the car. I don't have that kind of money lying around." He snapped. "You know that. Then get a job that does." And there it was. The pause. The flicker of realization that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the same Andrew anymore. That I wasn't going to clean up his mess this time. "You're acting like you're better than everyone," he said. "We're supposed to have each other's backs." "Yeah," I said, "but it's always been one way." That ended the call. The next day, Lisa posted a photo of their baby on Facebook with a caption so pointed it might as well have had my name tagged. "We don't need luxury or overpriced gifts. Just love, family, and people who show up for the right reasons." The comments poured in. Aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in years chimed in. So true. Money doesn't make a family. Real blessings don't come with price tags. It was like watching a circus. A very polite, passive-aggressive circus. They wanted to spin the narrative. That I was the rich, bitter older brother who threw money around to buy attention. Not the one who paid the mortgage the year Dad lost his job. Not the one who paid for Mom's back surgery out of pocket so they wouldn't have to touch their savings. Not the one who stayed up all night planning how to keep the trust funds safe when we thought Dad's early onset dementia was going to spiral. Matt came over that evening. I showed him the post. He just shook his head. "They're trying to bait you," he said. "Because you're not playing along? That's worse than yelling. That's dangerous to them." He brought a folder with him. Inside were screenshots and texts, old stuff. Messages from Noah 2 years back begging Matt for $500 to float him after a trip to Vegas. Promises never followed through. Apologies that turned into insults when Matt pushed back. I had my own version of that folder in my head, but seeing it printed real, it hit differently. I spent the night documenting everything. Every dollar I'd loaned Noah in the past 5 years. Every bill I'd quietly paid. Every instance where I stepped in so no one else had to. I tallied it all and sent a spreadsheet to my brother and my parents. I didn't say a word in the email. No threats. No explanations. Just numbers and a final line. No further support will be provided. 2 days later, my dad called. What are you trying to prove by sending this? He asked. I'm not trying to prove anything, I said. I'm just done pretending. There was a long silence. Then he said, This isn't how families handle things. Funny, considering that's what Noah said too. That night, someone egged my car. 3 eggs, all dried in the morning sun. I didn't call the police. I just cleaned it off and moved the car. I didn't even have to wonder who did it. Matt came by again and sat with me on the porch. You know this is going to get uglier, right? I nodded. Good, he said. Let them see what it's like when the guy they always lean on finally leans back. He was right. For once in my life, I wasn't trying to keep the peace. And for the first time, they were all starting to realize how much they'd taken for granted. They showed up together. Saturday morning. I was halfway through mowing the lawn when my mother's car pulled into the driveway, followed by Noah's rental. He must have returned the leased car already, either that or it got repossessed. I killed the engine and watched them get out, one by one, Mom first, fast and furious, followed by Dad, and then Noah and Lisa. No smiles. No small talk. Mom came straight to the point. What is this? You're threatening to take your own brother to court over a car? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, then at Noah. You owe me money, I said. And it's not just about the car. It's everything. Years of covering for you. Years of you being the favorite while I was the one holding the roof up. Dad stepped in, trying to mediate, hands raised like he was putting out a fire. We don't need lawyers. This is a family matter. That's the problem, I said. You've all been treating it like family means unlimited favors. Noah spoke for the first time. I don't have it. Okay? I don't have the money. And even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you like this. You'll give it to me like a grown man who signed a lease and let someone else take the risk for him. Or I'll take you to small claims court. That's when Lisa lost it. She started yelling about how I'd always had more money, how I used it to control people. That I was selfish, manipulative, and toxic. I let her go on. I'd heard it all before, though never so directly. But now, it didn't sting. When she was done, I looked at them, all four standing on my lawn, thinking they were the victims. My parents, who never once asked Noah to step up. My brother, who floated through life on excuses. And Lisa, who fit into the family dynamic too well, say the right things, show up just enough, and let Andrew pick up the pieces. I'm not doing it anymore, I said. You all want something from me. You always have. But now, I'm bad for business. I say no, and suddenly I'm the villain. Mom's voice rose. We raised you better than this. No, I said. You raised me to be useful. That's not the same thing. That hit her harder than I expected. She turned to Dad, who looked suddenly tired in a way I hadn't seen before. He still didn't say much. Maybe he knew I was right. Maybe he just didn't want to admit how long he'd let it go on. Noah muttered something under his breath and walked back to the car. Lisa followed. My parents stayed a moment longer. Mom tried one last shot. You'll regret this. I've regretted staying quiet, I said. Not anymore. They left. Matt called later that afternoon. I told him everything. Good, he said. Now let them sit in it. No backtracking. I won't, I told him. And I meant it. I checked the court's website that evening. Filing a small claim wasn't complicated. I filled out the paperwork, saved it. I wasn't bluffing. If they wanted a war, they were going to get one. But this time, I wasn't fighting for them. I was fighting for myself. The court papers sat on my desk for 3 days. I'd already filled them out. Noah's full name, the amount he owed, the lease terms, the dates. Everything was documented. I had copies of the original agreement, screenshots of texts where he promised to take care of it. Even a digital receipt from the leasing company showing I was the sole person keeping that car from being repossessed for over a year. But I waited. Not because I was unsure. Because I wanted to see if even now, after everything, they tried to make it right. They didn't. Instead, I got a text from my mother. "You're taking this too far. Noah's been under a lot of pressure. Maybe just talk it through with him. Family doesn't need paperwork." No acknowledgement of what I'd done for them. No ownership. Just a reminder that my role had always been to absorb the messes and smile through it. That night, Matt and I sat on my porch. I showed him the papers. He didn't say anything at first. Then he asked me a question I didn't expect. "Why haven't you filed them?" I told him I wanted to give them a chance. He shook his head. "You're still hoping they'll act like the people you pretend they are." I filed the claim the next morning. $7,400 for the balance of the car lease. I paid the $55 filing fee. 15 minutes later, I had a court date and a confirmation email. Noah would be officially served by Friday. That same afternoon, I got a voicemail from my dad. "Andrew, look, I don't know everything that's going on. But this can't be how we handle things. You and your brother in court? What's the point? This isn't us." He sounded tired. Not angry, not disappointed, just overwhelmed. Like he didn't know where to place his loyalty, but still couldn't bring himself to say Noah was wrong. That's when it hit me, even now, even with facts and numbers in front of him, he was still hoping I'd fold. He wanted me to be the one who absorbed it all again. But I wasn't that person anymore. Friday came. The court's email confirmed the papers had been delivered. That night I got a text from Noah. "You win. I'll pay. Just pull the claim." No apology. No explanation. Just a surrender. I didn't answer right away. I waited until the next morning. "I want half by next week. The rest in 30 days. I'll need it in writing." It was business now. Nothing else. He agreed. Saturday afternoon, I got a notification from the bank. $3,700 deposited into my account. His name on the transfer. A short email followed with terms of the remaining payment. I printed it, archived it, replied with, "Received." It didn't feel satisfying. Not really. Just final. Matt came by that evening with 2 beers and no words. We sat on the back steps as dusk fell across the yard. "They didn't think you'd do it," he said after a while. "They still don't understand why I did. You didn't do it to punish them," he said. "You did it because you finally stopped saving them." He was right. Later that week, my mom called again. Her tone had changed. Less firm. More careful. "We didn't realize how much she'd been covering." I didn't say anything. "I guess I never really added it all up," she said. "That's the problem," I said. "I was never supposed to be the one adding." There was a pause. Then she said, "We'll figure it out." I didn't know what that meant. But I knew what it didn't mean. It didn't mean things would go back to normal. Because normal was me getting nothing in return for everything. Now, I was keeping track. Not just of money, but of how people treated me when I finally said no. And for once, they were the ones who had to adjust. The second half of the payment came exactly 30 days later. No reminder, no back and forth. Just a direct deposit from Noah and a one-line message. "Paid. Hope this ends it." It did. At least on paper. I didn't reply. The silence after that was strange. Not quiet like peace, but quiet like after a building collapses. Everyone's trying to figure out what's still standing. Noah stopped posting anything about family online. Lisa stayed off social media entirely for a while. My parents didn't call. Not even for small things, not even to check in. It was like they didn't know how to talk to me without circling back to everything that had just happened. And honestly, I didn't miss them. The distance didn't feel like loss. It felt like space. Like oxygen. Matt and I talked more than we ever had before. He was the only one who never needed anything from me. And maybe that's why I finally trusted him when he said, "You didn't break the family. You just stopped being the glue." He was right. For years, I thought love meant stepping in. Paying. Fixing. Smoothing everything over. But I see it differently now. Love isn't about convenience. It isn't about how much you're willing to carry. It's about how people treat you when you stop carrying it for them. 6 weeks after the payment cleared, my dad left a voicemail asking if I'd come over for a family dinner. No reason, no holiday. Just a vague olive branch. I didn't go. A few days later, I got an email from my mom. It was long, filled with reflections and soft rewrites of the past. She never said sorry, but she came close in her own way. Near the end, she wrote, "You were always the strong one. I just wish I hadn't expected you to be." I didn't respond to that either. Not out of cruelty, but because I wasn't going back to that version of myself. A month after that, Noah showed up at my door. He looked different. A little thinner, eyes heavier. He said he wasn't here to talk about the past, just to tell me that he was moving. Lisa got a job offer in another state. They were leaving in a week. I didn't ask where. He said, "I know I burned everything with you. And I don't expect anything now. But I just wanted to say I get it. I get why you stopped." I nodded. He started to walk away but turned back one last time. "You were never the problem." That night, I stood in my kitchen and looked around at a life that finally belonged to me. No more shared leases. No more autopay charges for other people's bills. No more guilt disguised as family. Just space. Just clarity. Matt came over the next weekend. We grilled steaks, drank beer, watched the sky change colors. At one point he said, "So what now?" I told him the truth. "I'm done being the good guy." He smiled. "Good. That guy got nothing but headaches." "I'm not going to be the bad guy either," I said. "I'm just going to be unavailable." It was the last favor I'd ever do for them. Finally, I was living my life. And they were learning to live without me. The update. It had been a solid week of silence. No surprise calls, no passive-aggressive texts, no backhanded updates on my nephew's growth. Nothing. For once, peace didn't feel like a waiting room before the next problem. It felt real. Until Tuesday. I pulled into the driveway after work and immediately noticed the unfamiliar car parked at the curb. A rusted-out silver sedan with out-of-state plates. It was still running. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery mistake or someone lost. But then the driver stepped out, and I froze. Uncle Steve. I hadn't seen him in over 6 years. Maybe more. He was my mom's older brother, a shadowy figure in the family. He used to pop up for holidays, usually unshaven, always quiet. People rolled their eyes when his name came up. "Steve's off doing his thing," they'd say. "Don't bother calling him, he won't pick up." Now he was standing in front of my house. I got out of the car. He smiled, stuck his hands in his jacket pockets. "Didn't think I'd still know how to get here." I didn't say much. I wasn't mad, just confused. He didn't ask to come in. Didn't even approach the porch. He just stood near the mailbox and said, "Heard what happened. Thought you should know, it's not new." "What isn't?" He looked tired. Not in a sick way, just like someone who's carried something too long. "All of it. The taking. The expecting. The pretending like your family until you finally say no." He told me a story I'd never heard. Back when Mom was in college, Steve had paid her tuition behind my grandparents' backs when their savings dried up. He co-signed on her first car, gave my grandparents money when my grandfather lost his job. He even offered to move back home to help when Grandma got sick, but they told him it wasn't necessary. Then, like flipping a switch, they stopped talking to him when he mentioned needing repayment. "They didn't get angry," he said. "They got cold. Silent. Just like they're doing to you now." I asked why he was telling me this now, after all this time. He pulled something from his jacket pocket. Folded paper, soft from age. "I was cleaning out Dad's stuff last year. Found this tucked in an old tax folder." It was a letter. Handwritten. Dated 1996. It was from my grandfather, addressed to Steve. He'd written about how guilty he felt for what happened. How he knew Steve had done too much, and how he regretted letting everyone pile on him while acting like he was the selfish one. It was clear. Direct. Regret in ink. But it had never been sent. "I guess they figured you don't need apologies when you disappear." I unfolded the letter and read it twice right there. Every line echoed something I'd lived myself. "I thought maybe it skips generations," Steve said. "But it doesn't. It's just how they're wired. You do too much, you'd get used. You say no, you get erased. I asked him what he wanted. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. I wanted someone in the family to know they weren't crazy. Then he nodded once, turned, and drove off. No dramatic goodbye. No promises to keep in touch. Just truth, dropped like a brick on my front step. That night I sat with that letter for a long time. It didn't make anything better. It didn't undo anything. But it reframed everything. This wasn't just about Noah. Or Lisa. Or even Mom and Dad. It was the pattern. And maybe, finally, I was the one who broke it.